Hey there, Mr. Reddit here. Welcome back to another episode of r/entitled Parent Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. Karen tells me I need to stop mowing my lawn. After that, Karen demands I move 2 cars impounded by the police. And after that, I know it's your number, but... Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen has to mow the lawn. What about my allergies? So please smash that like button. And if you're new, subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. Karen tells me I need to stop mowing my lawn. To set the scene, I live in a relatively quiet neighborhood and all of our neighbors take great pride in keeping their lawns and the appearance of their houses. So it's common to hear lawnmowers, weed whackers, saws, etc. On Saturday afternoon, I decided that I would mow our front and back lawns for my parents as they were preparing dinner, and I thought it would be a nice thing to do. I had already finished mowing our backyard, which took about 15 to 20 minutes, and had moved on to our front yard. When I walked into the front yard, I did notice my elderly neighbor, she's like 97, sitting outside with her daughter. While in the middle of mowing the front lawn, the daughter comes up to me and said something. I couldn't hear her because the mower was running, so I turned it off and asked her to repeat herself. She then says, "I don't know if you noticed, young lady, but we are trying to sit and enjoy our Saturday afternoon, and you are disrupting us with your mowing." I apologized, and I thought that was the end of the ordeal, so I started the mower back up. The daughter starts yelling at me that I have zero respect for the elderly or my neighbors. I told her I would be done in 10 minutes, but she just wanted me to stop and come back and finish in 2 hours. 2 hours. I once again told her that I would finish mowing now, as I only had half of the lawn left, and she blew up once again. I then told her, me mowing for another 10 minutes will not hurt, and you can go back inside or just wait for me to be done. I never complain when you mow yours at 7 in the morning. Now please, get off of our lawn. I thought I was polite, but when I told my parents about it, they yelled and are upset because now they think that the neighbors will talk poorly about me and our family. I do kind of feel bad now, because I could have just waited to do it another time, and I may have taken it too far with telling her to get off our lawn. So, am I the jerk for continuing to mow against the wishes of an elderly neighbor? Edit. I just looked up my city laws, and unfortunately, it is legal for her to mow at 7 a.m. Well, what would you do in this situation? Would you stop mowing or keep mowing? Please let us know. I'd mow a little bit slower is what I would do. Karen demands I move 2 cars impounded by the police. This story is from roughly 2013. I was an adjuster for Lizard Insurance and would go to many tow lots after car accidents and decide if a car was a total loss or send it to a body shop, as well as do the initial write-up of an estimate on repair costs. The tow lot I was at this day also worked with the state police and housed their overflow storage for anything deemed evidence and on hold from release. These vehicles were kept behind a locked gate inside the already fenced, gated tow yard. I was there to do an appraisal on 2 vehicles that had been involved in a minor accident. However, both were left unable to drive from the scene due to either multiple flats, lights knocked out, or windows busted. I finished the first vehicle, and I've started taking photos of the second vehicle. I have headphones in, and I'm listening to the album Cavalcade by the Flatliners. Anywho, I see a woman I'd guessed was around 50 walk up to the police evidence lot, and the gate swings open out of the corner of my eye. Not paying much attention, as the vehicles I was working with were on the same side of the lot, but about 50 meters down from the evidence lot. As my back is turned to this woman, I will hereon refer to as Karen, I take the last couple of photos I need, the last being a photograph of the VIN of the vehicle, which is located where the windshield meets the hood, almost on the dash through the windscreen. I hope this makes sense. Karen, out of literally nowhere, grabs both cables to my headphones from behind and rips them out of my ears. Karen, "Excuse me, why are there 2 cars in front of mine so I cannot get it out?" This lot would stack cars in 4 or 5 deep, side by side, and move them around with a small truck to release them. Me, "Please don't touch me, and I don't think you should be in there, and you shouldn't be listening to music on the job anyway, or slacking off taking pictures of other people's belongings. You're probably back here stealing." I attempt to point at the Lizard Insurance logo on my blue jacket, but Karen continues on. "Are you going to do your job? Or do I need to call the police because you're refusing to give me my property? Me. Have you gone into the office at ABC Towing? No, I saw you here, and you need to move these cars so I can get mine and leave. As Karen opens the door and gets into the first car in the ones blocking her. Me. Hey, no! You can't go in there. That's police evidence. I use my cell phone to call ABC Towing and inform them. Karen. If you won't move these cars, then I will. Where are the keys? Me. In the office with the employees. At this time, the manager comes running out with one of those weird smartphone / Nextel style phones in his hand. Manager. Hey lady, get the heck out of those cars. They're property of the state police. Manager frantically uses his Nextel to talk to someone. Manager sees the chain used to keep the lot closed has been cut with bolt cutters. Karen was carrying a pair of bolt cutters and had thrown them into her car when she was back at it. Manager and Karen argue back and forth. I intently listen and pay half attention as I finish my duties for work. About 8 to 10 minutes pass and 7 police cars come flying back into the lot. Manager greets the police and explains what's going on, but not after Karen attempts to scream at the police that I had stolen her car from her. Police tell Karen to stand over in a direction he points, sending one officer to wait for her. Turns out the lieutenant was on scene who was in charge of the county's police tow licenses. After getting manager's story, lieutenant comes to me and takes mine. While I'm informing him of what's happened, Karen overhears and starts yelling and attempting to approach me. The officer standing with her grabbed her by her arm. Karen yanked that arm out of the female officer's hand and shoved her. Surprisingly, knocks the officer down. Karen is screaming incoherently as she charges towards me. The lieutenant steps in front of me and with his taser gets her with the most beautiful sound in the world. Karen falls down and skids slightly. They immediately handcuff her. Turns out, Karen had walked onto the lot carrying the bolt cutters while I was in the office talking with staff about the 2 cars I needed to adjust. She had been roaming the lot until she saw me and I happened to be near her car. Karen was charged with too many things to name. I know Karen did jail time, but I'm not sure how long. Years later, the tow company I now own impounded her car for being double parked. She remembered who I was and quietly paid. I know it's your number, but quite some time ago, my girlfriend and I, now my wife of more than 15 years, moved in together and had to set up all of the things, cable, internet, phone, etc. We got our home phone number, our 2 cell phones, and we were off to the races. Almost immediately, we start getting calls for an establishment that does custom framing and various other art-related things. Let's call them Expo for Art. Of course, we had caller ID, and we had friends that would call us, but inevitably, if we didn't recognize the number, it was someone wanting to find out if their order was complete, or their frame was done, or what their hours were, or any of 1,000 other questions. I'm sure anyone else who had this happen will recognize this exchange. Sorry, that's no longer their number. This is a residence. Yes, I'm sure. No, I'm not giving you my address. No, I don't know their new number. Yes, I have a phone book, but so do you. Eventually, after 1,000 of these, and changing the messages on our answering machine to say, this is not, and I repeat, this is not Expo for Art. If you are trying to reach Expo for Art, please hang up, look up their number, and try that, because we aren't them. Eventually, I got my gazillionth call, and I asked the person on the other end of the line where they keep getting this number. Well, it's printed on my receipt. I guess I'll just call this other number. Any chance you can give me that number? Thanks. I call it. Hello, Expo for Art. You guys are still giving out my home phone number on your receipts. Yeah, so? Well, stop it. It's been at least a year since you haven't had that number. At least cross it out or something. That's a pain. I'm not making my employees do that. So, you're the manager? I'm the owner. So let me see if I have this right. You, what was your name again? Let's call him Fred. You, Fred, have decided that it's too inconvenient to cross my home phone number off of your receipts. So you're just going to keep giving it out? Yup. What are you gonna do? Sue me? Maybe. Whatever. I've got stuff to do. Bye. I called a lawyer. Didn't really have a leg to stand on. I went to the store and asked for Fred. Fred's not here. He's hardly ever here, really. You want me to call him? No, I'm fine. I know this is going to sound odd, but is there any chance I can see one of your receipts? She picks up a receipt book and shows it to me. Sure enough, it's got my phone number at the top above another one. I say, I thought so. I couldn't get you at the other number. Some guy yelled at me and I don't have my old receipt, so I had to come down here. We've been having that happen a lot. Ever since Fred decided we didn't need 2 phone lines. But he had just bought like 20 boxes of these other receipt books and business cards, and he's too cheap to buy more until they run out. I'd hate to be that guy. Yeah, that's gotta suck. So I went home and hatched my evil plan. Next phone number I didn't recognize. Hello, Expo for Art. Hi, this is Mary Smith. I dropped off a thing last week to be framed. Is it ready? Let me check. Yep, we finished it this morning. I hope you don't mind, but we decided to upgrade the matting because of the weight of the price. It's the same color and won't be charging you for it since it was my decision. Oh, thank you. I'll be down to pick it up later today. What time do you close? I looked down at the business card with my number and the hours clearly marked 11 to 4. Take your time. We'll be here until 7. Thank you so much. Can you tell me how much that was? $19.99, ma'am, plus tax, so $21.39. Wow, that's cheap. Are you sure? Of course. If anyone has a problem, tell them you talked to Fred. Okay, see you around 6. See you then. Thank you for calling Expo for Art. For weeks, I kept giving out completely random information. How much is a 36 by 48 matted frame? Let's say $24.99. Wow, that's cheap. How much to have it done custom how they want it? Custom is an extra $10, so $34.99. Wow, that's cheap. I'll be right down. What was your name? Fred. See you in 10, Fred. How much to have the entire front page of the New York Times mounted and framed? $33.99, unless you want our special proprietary newspaper frame and mat service. Only $49.99 and guaranteed for life. Only at Expo for Art. Tell them Fred sent you. I can only imagine the number of upset people who showed up to pick up orders that weren't ready, and when they finally were given a price way higher than what Fred had told them over the phone. Eventually, someone let slip up that they called the number on the receipt, and that's what Fred had told them. Fred was not happy. Hello, thank you for calling Expo for Art. This is Fred. You're not Fred, I'm Fred. Are you trying to put me out of business? Why, Fred? Whatever do you mean? Someone has been giving prices to my customers and telling them their orders are in when they're not due for weeks. Well, Fred, who called them? Nobody called them. They called us. Then that's your problem. If someone called you and got pricing information, that would seem to be your problem. They didn't call me. They called you. Well, how would that happen? Your number is on my receipts and business cards. My. It seems to me that there's a very simple solution here. Take my number off of your receipts and business cards. Do you have any idea how much promotional material costs? Is it more than it costs to do these jobs for the prices you're quoting? Is it more than it costs to lose customers? Or less than that? This is extortion. Call it what you want, Fred. The choices and consequences are entirely up to you. A week later. Hello, Expo for Art. This is Fred. I've ordered new receipt books and cards. Can you please stop doing this? Sure. Bye, Fred. What would you do if you were in this situation? Would you get your own form of revenge or not? Please let us know. Oh, I'd get revenge all right. $10 and a pencil. A few years ago, after changing jobs, I found myself in a new office with a new phone number. After some orientation, training, and other new hire stuff, I finally get to sit down and do the things. I get my voicemail and answering machine set up the email, and the phone rings. Good morning, Railroad Engineering. Yeah, when can I take the GED test? Sorry, wrong number. Click. Rings again. Seriously, when can I take the GED test? Like I said, wrong number. Bye. This went on for weeks, 15 to 20 calls a day. Some people screaming at me for not being the Adult Learning Center. One day, an epiphany. This isn't the Adult Learning Center? Nope. Do you know the number? Check Google. I did. This is the number on their website. Oh, really? A little Google foo of my own, and I dig up a few numbers and give them a call. They tell me that they don't maintain their website, and there's nothing they can do about it, and it's not their problem. I'm just going to have to deal with it. My favorite line of that conversation was, What are you going to do about it? I work for the state. You can't do anything. Bye-bye. And you can imagine that bye-bye just dripped with the condensation that only a hubris and decades of Karenhood can muster. Oh no, let's dance. The next day. Good morning, this is Railroad. When can I take the GED test? We give that on request. It takes about an hour and a half. Come on down. Oh, awesome. How much is it? $10. Bring a pencil. We'll sharpen yours, but we can't supply them. Budget cuts, you know? Nah, I get it. See you in a bit. Take your time. They don't like me telling you this, but if you get here before we close, they have to give you the test. See you when you get here. Thanks, man. See you later. Now, for those of you who don't know, the GED test takes a whole day. It also usually costs upward of $100, depending on the state. In the state I was living and working at the time, it was around $200. As such, it was only offered at certain intervals. So, as I was telling dozens of people per day that it was $10, took 90 minutes, and offered on request, I'm sure that they were absolutely inundated with angry people with freshly sharpened number 2 pencils, waving their $10 bills and demanding the test that the guy on the phone told them they could come and take. Every morning I checked the website to see if my phone number was still on there. I also took the liberty of crawling around and getting the phone numbers for some managers. I was happy to hand these out when people called back to complain that they hadn't been allowed to take the test. Head back down there and ask to speak to random director and tell them that they called the number on the website and this is what they were told. It took them about 6 more weeks to change the website. For some reason, all of the managers' numbers disappeared from the website as well. Entitled lady always gets rotten salads. This story belongs to my beautiful wife, who is a deli manager in a major regional grocery store in our area. She runs a tight ship and likes to keep things clean and up to date. So imagine her surprise when a customer, let's call her the entitled lady, reports that 8 out of 8 boxed salads, think macaroni salad, potato salad, that sort of thing, she had just bought were all bad. Entitled lady: I just bought these 8 salads, and every single one of them was spoiled and inedible. Beautiful wife: I'm sorry to hear that. It surprises me. Do you have them with you? I'll be happy to exchange them. No, I threw them away, but I have the receipt. Wife looks over the receipt. It is recent, like a day or two old, and all in order. Against her better judgment, she errs on the side of good customer service and replaces the 8 salads just on the basis of the receipt. That was Monday. Come Wednesday, beautiful wife is working on the fryer when she hears a familiar voice telling one of the team, I just bought these 8 salads, and every single one of them was spoiled and inedible. Beautiful wife steps forward and says, I've got this. And the entitled lady does not look pleased to see my wife again. So, still all bad? Did you bring the salads back with you to exchange? No, they're too disgusting. I threw them all away. But I have the receipt. Wife: the trouble with that is that I can't send your receipt back to my vendor for credit on the bad salads. I need the salads to do the exchange. You didn't need them last time. Actually, I did, but I took you at face value and ate it that time. This is not something I'm inclined to do again. Karen, starting to rise like a cobra ready to strike. How dare you address me like that? Don't you know how good a customer I am to this store? I want to talk to the manager. Well, sweetie, that would be me. No spoiled salad to exchange, no exchange. At that, entitled lady storms off in a huff. Beautiful wife checks with the rest of the team. It becomes clear that at least twice in the last week, the entitled lady had hit the deli during their busiest times and gotten new salads without having brought back the purportedly bad ones. That's at least 24 free salads over the last couple weeks. Right about then, busy store director comes storming over with the entitled lady in tow. What's this I hear about you insulting our customers, beautiful wife? Wife: what did she tell you, busy store director? How I refused to exchange a product that she doesn't have? Or that over the last 2 weeks, she is the only person to complain about any of our salads being bad, and oddly enough, every single one she got from here was bad. Or that we already gave her dozens of free salads, and that is more than enough generosity for one deli. I'm not saying she's scamming us, sir, but if she doesn't bring the spoiled salad back with her to exchange, there will be no more exchanges. Busy store director: I see. As you were. Then to the entitled lady: You're lucky I don't ban you from the store for this behavior. The entitled lady realizes she won't get any further today and sulks away. Beautiful wife makes sure to train everyone on her team to require the old product be returned for any exchanges. A couple of days later, she's coming out of the cooler when she hears a familiar voice. I bought these 8 salads the other day, and every single one of them was bad. It's a different worker who wasn't there last time. Different worker. Did you bring them back with you to exchange? No, they were gross. I threw them all away. I can't exchange them unless you bring them back. Beautiful wife smiles. Not even just this once? It's an honest mistake. Beautiful wife steps out into full view. Not even just this 10th time. Now get out of my deli and don't ever come back. The entitled lady fled and was never seen in those parts again. Never have I ever had an issue with a neighbor until this guy. I, 40 male, have never had an issue with a neighbor. I've been lucky up until now. I moved into a new home at the end of February 2020. I introduced myself and my family to the new neighbors. Like usual, some were more receptive and friendly than others. Within 30 days of buying the home and moving in, one of my next door neighbors started construction on a large concrete block building that is really close to the property line, as well as really close to his back porch and another building in his backyard. I went to speak with him. He indeed told me that it was not permitted and agreed that it was probably too close to the property line. He said he had stopped construction on it, but didn't know why I had such a big deal with it, as it's just a shed. As soon as I mentioned construction and fire codes, he walks off and stated again he had stopped construction on it. 2 days later, he continues construction. I tried to talk to him again, and he just says, "Whatever, buddy," and walks off. So I checked with the city, and the zoning in our area requires a 12-foot setback for any structure, more depending on the height. This was less than 4 feet from the common wall between our yards. That wall is the property line. So I call the city. While describing my complaint, the operator pulls up recent aerial photographs of his property. She says that he has no permits on file with the city for any of the 3 other buildings in his backyard, the porch added to his home, the wall around his property, the structure he built in his front yard, etc. She also says that he has very obviously overbuilt his property, and there are guidelines to what percentage of his property he can fill with buildings. The guy has a lot of unpermitted, uninspected buildings and construction on his property. The city went out and gave him a notice of violation for work without permits. He has been asked by the city multiple times for information on his property and has not replied. That was April 2020 when he got the notice of violation. He has a couple of dogs. When I first met him, he told me to come meet his dogs so that they won't bark at me too much. I did, and it didn't seem like the dogs were barking that much. After he got the violation notice from the city, he would just leave his dogs outside for hours on end and let them bark and bark the whole time. It's just about mind-numbing. The way his yard is set up, he has a driveway on one side that goes from the street out front to his backyard. The other side of his house borders mine, and that is where the dogs are most of the time. It seriously sounds like they're right outside. With a TV and home theater on, AC running, kids making noise, and all of the other household noises, I can still hear his dogs barking. 5 a.m. to 11 p.m., those dogs will bark. Lately, he started keeping one dog at a time on his back porch, but is confining them to some kind of kennel. It's only about 4 by 6 feet. The dogs will whine, yip, and bark for hours on end, and it's right on the other side of the wall from me. I feel bad for the poor dog, being confined for hours at a time. Summer temperatures are now getting over 100 degrees and can even get up to 115 during the summer. So, I go over to talk to him about his dogs and their barking. This was December 2020. He has a large block wall surrounding his front yard. It's about 7 or 8 feet tall. There's no way to access his front yard or his yard without going through a gate, which has barking/snarling dogs on the other side. No doorbell, intercom, nothing. So I knock on the side of his house that's facing the street. I'm standing in his driveway. Both him and his wife come out. I asked him if he could do something about his dogs and their constant barking. He said to me, with a smirk on his face, that he doesn't know what I'm talking about and that his dogs never bark. This whole time, his dogs are barking so much that we can barely hear each other. "You know what, buddy? You already cost me way too much money. Get off my property," He then says to me. I take 2 steps and I'm now on a city-owned sidewalk and near the street. His wife climbs on something from his front yard and is screaming at me from inside the yard, leaning over their wall. He comes out of his gate and takes his shirt off, trying to get me to fight him in the street. I just walked home. I didn't laugh, argue, yell, talk, or anything. At that point, I just walked home to avoid the confrontation that they were wanting. His dogs have continued to bark almost all day, every day since that interaction. I was contacted by a city inspector recently about the complaint. The inspector told me that they've been asking him for information for over a year and he has yet to comply, so his notice of violation has officially been turned into a citation and he will have to go before a judge. The problem that the inspector has had is that he has been unable to make contact with my neighbor as he cannot get to the front door. He said that he has to issue the citation in person and also has to take pictures of the property when he serves the individual. The city inspector said that he is most likely going to have to get a police officer to escort him onto the property. I've been debating calling the city about the animal noise. If I do, I'll probably bring up the issue of the confined dog on the back porch. They handle animal noise separately than normal noise and disturbing the peace calls. He'll get fined between $50 and $500 per occurrence, as I'll be required to complete a log of when I hear the dogs. He has clearly shown that he is unable to have a conversation about it and resolve it between the two of us. I know he's in trouble with the city already, but does he seriously think he can just continue to be a jerk without any repercussions? Like I've said, I'm 40. I've had plenty of neighbors through the years and have never had any issue with any of them until this guy. He's in big trouble already, but I feel like it might be too much under the circumstances, but I'd also like to be able to get a full night's sleep without having to listen to the dogs. Would I be the jerk if I filed an animal noise complaint with the city against my neighbor? Well, what would you do in this situation? Would you file a noise complaint or not? Please let us know.
I'd be training like Rocky, then go over there and make him humble.
Don't walk on my rocks. This story takes place one morning more than halfway through my Army basic training at Fort Bliss, El Paso, Texas. 50 plus years later, some of the details are fuzzy or lost, but none of that really matters to the retelling of this tale. At the time of this malicious compliance, I had taken something to the company office for a drill sergeant and was returning to the training area. There wasn't any grass in our company area. It was just too dry for grass. Instead, we had rocks about the size of quarters and half dollars where you would normally expect grass. And the DIs had a rule: keep off my rocks. But this particular day, I didn't. I could have stayed on the concrete sidewalks, but I cut across the rocks, a distance of perhaps 30 feet rather than the 120 feet or so on the sidewalk, and it almost worked out fine. Almost. About 10 feet before I was back on concrete, out rang, "Hold it right there, trainee." It was my company's first sergeant. After a brief discussion of my error, he told me to never walk on my rocks. Now drop and give me 20 push-ups. So I did, and he walked into the building as I counted each one. I had become pretty familiar with this process over the past weeks. Let's just say I had plenty of practice. When you finished the assigned push-ups, you didn't just pop back to your feet. You called out, "Permission to rise, drill sergeant," and waited for said permission. I thought about just getting up and going about my business. I knew he expected me to do just that because he went inside. But at this moment, I realized it might be interesting to wait for a while in the front-leaning rest position, push-up position, right out in front of the company office. This began my malicious compliance. Perhaps a couple of minutes later, an officer, I think our company commander, came walking down the sidewalk from the parking lot. He paused and asked me what I was doing, so I told him. He said something like, "Okay," or "I see," and continued inside the building. About 20 seconds later, the window nearest me shot open and First Sergeant stuck his head out saying, "You can get up, son. You can get up." From the way he called out, I'm pretty sure he had been a bit embarrassed. The palms of my hands were a little sore for a couple of days, but it was well worth it. To Karen's husband, whose name isn't Chad, thank you so much for stopping the rant we both know she was building up to. You are a true hero. Now on with the story. This happened a few moments ago. I'm in the kitchen filling up the cleanser so I can spray my lobby down. I walk out carrying 2 spray jugs since no one else mixes any when they use it up. There's Karen and her husband, not Chad, standing in the lobby looking around, wondering where the night audit is. Me. "Good morning, how are you today?" Karen gives me a blank stare. Not Chad. Good morning to you. Karen.
I want to check out.
Me. We can make that happen for you. What's your room number? Karen.
This is my room number.
Me. Give me a moment and I'll get you some paper airplane material. Are you guest names here? And did you sleep well? Karen, debating on if she should let me have it, decides for the moment I'm not worth it.
I slept just fine till you checked someone in the room next door.
Me. Well, I do apologize that you were disturbed, but I only checked one guest in. That was at midnight and they were on the opposite side of the hotel. Karen.
Whatever. Give me my receipt.
I hand over the receipt and she stares at it for 10 minutes, then starts to walk out the door, stops and turns around.
This isn't me. I said this room number.
Room right next door. Me. Oh, I do apologize. It's for the room she originally told me, but I'll take this on the chin. Karen.
Why did they pay less?
Me. You both paid through Hooking, so I don't have an answer for you on that. Hooking is a separate third-party organization that sets its own prices, and we do not change them at all. Not Chad breaks in as Karen's face starts to turn an ugly shade of red. I don't care. Get in the car, Karen. It's not worth arguing over $2. Karen at this point is visibly debating on if she should let us both have it, but Not Chad has left the building, so she rushes out to get in the car. Thanks, Not Chad, and thanks for taking one for the hotel front desk team. We appreciate your efforts. Cute little baby cow thing said come watch this video next because you're gonna love it.
And please support our channel by joining as a member today, and we'll give you a special shout out in our next video. And to have us make a special happy birthday video for you or a loved one, head over to our Fiverr, link pinned in the comments below.